And what I learned is people don't like saying this. It's two things. Part of it is just God given talent, but that won't get you a career in show business or sports. It is they're more dedicated to their profession. Is those athletes were first ones in the gym, last ones out of the gym. The people that I know that are successful in Hollywood, that's all they did. You hear that cliche, focus, concentration, right? You can't have the distractions. Those people, that's what they did. They ate, slept, and worked show business, right? So they made their own luck.
Welcome back to another episode on Find Joy with Joyanne, the podcast that is all about helping you live and lead a life with joy. I'm your host, Joyanne Chan, and every Wednesday we are giving you access to the world's best and brightest minds in their fields on our show. Listen in as these leaders impart their wisdom, inspiration, and stories to empower you to live joyfully with intention, passion, and purpose, and celebrate the struggles and overcome the challenges we may face each day with the tools and insights that we are going to share with you. Whether you are looking to improve your relationship, find your passion, learn how to embrace the present moment, deepen your spiritual connections, or learn the magic of manifestation and law of attraction to attract more abundance, this podcast is here to guide you every step of the way. As your host, I am also challenging myself to dig deeper to learn and unlearn and ride along with you. We are not here to tell you how to live your life because it is your life. But this life is all that we have right now. So my friend, why not live our life to the fullest? So I hope these conversations and stories will guide and inspire you to live your life to your highest potential and a life that you are proud of as you continue to grow and evolve in your own journey. So if you are ready to start living a more passionate, purposeful, and joyful life, join us every Wednesday on Find Joy with Joyanne for inspirational stories, powerful message, fun conversations, and empowering thoughts with me and my special guests and friends. And now, without further ado, let's dive into today's episode. Joining us today is a political scientist, desert world veteran, entertainment CEO, and head of the Digital World Union. He has worked on union projects at the University of Toronto and has worked with and know 3 US presidents, European Union ministers, Australian ministers, and top military and intelligence leaders. He runs a think tank that forecasts future events and solves major US and Western problems. And the think tank is most well known for defeating Google in the Australia and the European Union in landmark cases. And he's here today to share and empower you to be the advocate for change and create a positive impact in the world. So ladies and gentlemen, help me in welcoming the one and only Jerome Almon. Hi Jerome, welcome to the show.
How are you doing, Joy? Thank you for having me. Hi to your audience. I really appreciate being here, and this should be a good time.
It will be. Yeah, I really love our pre-talk. So it's really my honor to have you here today. And your background is so incredibly diverse, from being a political scientist to a desert world veteran to an entertainment CEO, working in Hollywood and also work with US presidents, and you are also the head of a union. If I'm not wrong, based on my research, you are also uniting African American to invest in Africa, right? With the campaign named The Power of 1 Trillion. So tell us
Yes.
about your background and how did you become the powerful and influential leader you are today?
My background is I'm actually a trained political scientist and economist I attended Michigan State University and Iowa State University. I worked on a project for the UN, the Delphi project out of Belgium at the University of Toronto. One of my mentors in political science actually wrote Slovenia's constitution. So I've had the opportunity to be around people like that. I also know President Trump and other major American leaders. I've known President Trump for 25 years, and people forget he's actually an entertainer. He's not a politician. Um, and I grew up around world championship boxers. So these are the biggest boxers, from Money Mayweather to Mike Tyson to Sugar Ray Leonard. I grew up around those boxers through my affiliation with the Crunk Gym in Detroit, which has produced the most world champs of any boxing gym. And through that, I was always at ringside. So I was always sitting next to the actors from Hollywood, the big singers. I got to meet athletes from every possible profession, from soccer to American football to baseball. And in those opportunities of meeting people, particularly in Hollywood, I learned how the industry works. Now, this has been going on with me since I was a teenager. So I was able to see how fame works, how Hollywood works, and the pitfalls of it, right? But I also was able to see, being an economist, to see the macro picture. And as you know, right now there's a strike going on in Hollywood, and that is for three very huge reasons I would like to discuss when we get to that point. But I was fortunate to have people such as Steven Spielberg's publicist help me out, a producer that made a film with Angelina Jolie's father, who is John Voight. There are people I know that are actors, that are directors. I actually am the person responsible for the Michigan Film Incentive, uh, which unfortunately was not ran correctly, versus the Atlanta situation, which was ran correctly. And the Michigan Film Incentive ended up collapsing and costing the state $500 million, no money made. Okay. So Atlanta did it right. And that's why Atlanta now makes more movies than any other city on earth.
Wow, what an opening. So, and being in the, being in the entertainment industry and also in the political side of things, because it's very interesting, the intersection between entertainment and politics can be intricate. So what sparked your interest to own an entertainment, company, and also, what led you to pursue a multifaceted career?
I've always been a big fan of art because I don't have any artistic talent. So whether it's painting, sculpture, it really fascinates me. Movies really fascinate me, because art reflects life. So it's a good way to gauge a time period, and it's a good way to gauge what's going on in a country or culture or the world. And it's really a positive in terms of encouraging people. Like a lot of movies, like athletes, they encourage me, because if you read the bios of people that made it, it's almost the exact same story. They Overnight success has a 10-year waiting list, as a Hollywood agent told me. Okay. So by the time we see these people, they've probably been out for 10 years, doing this. But what's very interesting to me, from what I've read and from the people I've met, their break came out of the blue. It didn't come, you would think, all the auditions, all the work, all the bit parts. They end up at a restaurant and they run into someone that's a Hollywood director, and they say, "You're the person I'm looking for this role," right? Or, as in the case of Will Smith for Men in Black, Will Smith was not even on the list to be in that movie. Actually, David Schwimmer from Friends was supposed to have that role. It was written for him. He was doing a play in Chicago that he was producing, so he refused to leave it. And Will Smith just happened to overhear that conversation. He was in the studio for some other reason, and he said, "Let me audition for it." And they were like, "Well, Will, we really didn't have you in mind." He said, "That's fine. Let me audition." They said, "Will, we have 50 people, and you're not on the list." He says, "Fine. Let me audition." They said, "Okay, we'll let you audition. How much time do you need?" He says, "Do you have the script?" Or they give him the script. He says, "I'm ready to go now." Because what Will Smith had done on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, he remembered everyone's lines. So when someone else is speaking on camera, he's mouthing their lines off camera, right? So that's how he got Men in Black. He was able to immediately do the scene right there on the spot. And they said, "Okay, we'll hire you."
Ooh, wow.
That's most roles. Harrison Ford was not meant to be in Star Wars. He was not the choice for Indiana Jones. That was Tom Selleck. Actually, in Star Wars, Harrison Ford was just there to audition against the other actors that were there for the role. The other actors were auditioning. He was just there basically as a prop, but he won out the role. That's how it really works in Hollywood. It's who you know. Don't get me wrong. It's an inside game. At some point, you have to get your foot uh, inside of the door to where you can move up and make movies. And to put that in perspective, the odds on you becoming president of the United States is 10 million to 1. The odds on you becoming a successful actor is 20 million to 1. Right? Now that was just the US before movies and the rest of the world went global. So now it's far greater odds. So the strike, and it comes back to why we have a writer strike and an actor strike. And I know most people don't know this, but the hotel unions also joined in on the strike in Hollywood. And the reason you have that is three major factors: COVID. You had the box office worldwide go from 42 billion to half that. So 2019 is 42 billion. 2022 it's 21 billion. The US goes from 14 billion in 2019 to 7 billion in 2022. Okay. The second reason is technology, AI, being able to make better special effect movies. And the third reason would be demographics, particularly Asia. Okay. Bollywood and Nollywood, Bollywood in India, Nollywood in Nigeria, are actually the two largest film producing countries. It's not Hollywood. And they go back and forth who's one and two. Hollywood is number three. So, in order for Hollywood to stay afloat, it must have the Asian market. And if you look at the Barbie movie, for instance, over half the box office is
Yeah.
international.
Easy. Yeah.
But in a lot of those special effect movies like that, it's 75% of the box office is international. Okay, and that's dominated by Asia, right? Because 60% of the world lives in Asia. That's just the way it is. And you need, people to buy tickets. So what's going on right now, and it boils down to money. Remember, Hollywood, at the end of the day, it's money. It's a business like anything else. The special effect movies cost between $200 and $300 million each on average. Okay. This year, Barbie has been the exception, which it's already done $1 billion at the box office in 3 weeks internationally, right? But you had the latest Raiders of the Lost Ark movie fail. You had the Flash movie fail. You have the Disney movie Haunted Mansion fail. Okay, and how it works is if you spend $250 million to make a movie, it has to make $500 million to break even because of the marketing cost. So these movies are coming nowhere near that. They're taking a bath. There's a big loss. So although you have successful Barbie and Oppenheimer, you have 5, 7 movies released in the last 30 days or so that lost 300-400 million dollars that they're never going to make up.
What
So
makes
that
what makes Barbie movie so successful? It's crazy.
Well, a lot of it is timing, and the other thing are females, right? As Tupac Shakur, the rapper, once said, it's girls and women that buy all the records, but also the movie tickets. But also in the larger grand picture is you have 80% of the purchases in America decided by women and girls. Okay. So that's why that's successful. Right timing, right actress in that spot. The movie caught on because females want to go to it. That's it. Otherwise, you take away the international box office, you take away females, that movie is a complete failure. But I haven't seen it. Understand it's a good movie and it worked out. And as we say, a movie that got finished actually made money and everybody that worked on it got paid. What a great movie. What a great movie.
Yeah. So, what would be your number one advice for young aspiring talents or artists or actors?
I would say first, what you want to do is to get your mind clear on what you want to do, right? And it's very simple what I do when I have a problem I can't solve or I need to solve. Just take a sheet of paper at the top of it, right where you want to be. I want to be a Hollywood star, make movies, be on TV. Okay. Then at the bottom of that piece of paper, right where you're at right now, right? And you see this big open space, right? That big open space is how do I get from where I'm at to where I want to be? So what you want to do is to make a plan. Two, you want to stay busy. You want to be hitting every audition, talking to everyone, networking, because the majority of the time your break is going to come out of the blue. You're going to do a lot of work, a lot of auditions. You're just going to run into the right person at the right time, and that's how you're going to end up getting that position. But and be professional. I would say number one, be focused and professional. A good start would be you can go to Wikipedia and read the bios of any star. And if you see, they all did the same thing. Very good work ethic, very professional, got to know the right people. My favorite story is Sharon Stone. Sharon Stone is a model. She runs into Michelle Pfeiffer. They're waiting to get into a club. They have a conversation. They keep talking. And Michelle Pfeiffer said, "Why don't you go into acting?" And she said, "I don't think I can't act." She says, "Go ahead, go into it." So she did. And here goes what I mean. Okay. Remember what I said the odds are 20 million to one, right? They become even bigger because now it's not just the US and Canada American actors are competing against, it's the whole world, right? America's only 4% of the world's population, meaning 96% isn't American. So now the competition is more like 100 million to one. Okay. But Sharon Stone, anyway, she takes the acting lessons. And Sharon Stone was in Basic Instinct. Uh, um, Sharon Stone was in Casino, right? She gets an Oscar for Casino. Both of those roles were supposed to be for Michelle Pfeiffer, the person that got her in the business. She
Wow.
heard about Sharon Stone, hears about it, goes down to the directors and the producers and asks for an audition. It's the same situation with Will Smith and Men in Black. They said, "Sharon, we don't even have you on the list." She says, "Let me audition." And she knocked it out of the park. The rest is history. But that's the competition. That's how it works. Okay. That door opens, and I'm saying 1 in 100 million it's going to open, and you better rush inside and stay inside, because if you ever get on the other side, it's almost impossible to get back in.
Right. Yeah. Because most people think whenever, people think like how you become successful or how you become famous, quote unquote, is like really is pure luck. A lot of people would think that, when it comes to Hollywood. But from what I'm hearing from you is luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity, right? Because opportunities are always around you. You have to be prepared for it when the right person show up, when the right opportunity, the right audition, you better be ready for that, right?
Absolutely right.
So
That is perfectly said.
yeah, thank you. So I know you also want to talk about the current buzz in the music industry. That is the current strike that we talk about, right? The controversy over censorship in the music, such as Jason Aldean video that which you are involved in. So talk to us about that. Maybe some insights into what is really the main issue over here.
Well, with the Jason Aldean video, this is just really amazing. I made that exact same video over a year ago for a rap artist.
Okay.
It will be coming out in the media. That exact same video was immediately banned by YouTube and Vimeo, right? Vimeo, rather, right? Jason Aldean is allowed to be on there. Now, this is the problem. What it is in America for 200 years of our 247-year history, this was the rule. If you don't like the movie or song, change the channel. Then in the 80s, it started to be where people were going to pick and choose what's good and not good. It'll never work in art. It does not work that way in art, right? Who's to say, for instance, the sculptures like David shouldn't be seen, right? Because he has on no clothes, but it's a sculpture, it's a classic. You have a
Yep.
lot of paintings that way. Movies use a lot of language and a lot of other things that you don't normally use every day. But that's why we go to the movies, is to be entertained. It's just entertainment, right? That's all it is. It's a reflection of society, but it's entertainment. So the only answer there, especially in a place like America, is to go back to that rule. If you don't like it, change the channel, go to something else. There's endless other choices, right? If you put the video I made for the rapper next to Jason Aldean's video and turn down the sound, you can't tell them apart. You think they're the same video. It's just that I made mine again over a year earlier, right? I have no issue with it. If ironically, Jason Aldean and I don't live too far from each other. We both live right outside of Atlanta. So um, that's the better way to go with that. And it works. The other way doesn't work because and this has happened with movies, and it's a lot like sports. If you hold back, you're not going to be successful, right? Can you imagine the great acting performances we've gotten from everybody from Meryl Streep, Robert De Niro, Denzel Washington, Sharon Stone, right? Imagine if they held back, right? It wouldn't be the same movie. And
Mm,
in most of the times, those lines they're repeating, they made those up. Like
yeah.
De Niro makes them up on the spot. Denzel Washington makes them up on the spot. Meryl Streep makes them up on the spot. So that's the only way to go with art. If you like Picasso and don't like Rembrandt, go to the Picasso Museum. Don't go to the Rembrandt Museum. But we don't want to say close down Rembrandt, right?
Yeah. Wow, that is really interesting because I never thought of that. So, but of course, as artists or as creator, we as public figures, we have to take responsibility for what we create, right? What we put out there for our message. So what is your thoughts on the balance between, I would say, yes, we need to express ourselves creatively, and don't hold back, right? But also, we have to achieve a balance between that and also the responsibility because we are now a public figure, we do have an influence in what we are saying, what we are doing.
Right. And I'm saying you're not going to have people go beyond that bound because they're going to turn off the audience, right? The audience is not going to go for it. So they're not going to do that. Then most people are out to create good art,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
So everybody knows where the lines are at, but 99% of people, they don't want to go that way because they understand when you go too far, you're going too far because the talent isn't there, right? That's what you're doing. It's a lot like reality TV, which is exactly opposite of what it says. It's really fake reality TV, but reality TV, the worse you act, the more you get paid. So guess what? People act really bad. But in Hollywood, there's set parameters that you don't cross. Same thing in Bollywood, same thing in Nollywood, same thing in Atlanta. And the next two places, this is another reason why Hollywood is really in a panic and you have the strike currently, is you're going to have Germany and South Africa do exactly what Bollywood and Nollywood did. That's in the works now. I'm saying you will see those announcements before year end. So now you're going to have even more competition. The South Africa project I'm directly involved with. I've talked with the president of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, his right hand man. It's going through. Okay, I am a partner in that. But that's what the Hollywood system that existed, say before the '80s, that's never coming back. Hollywood will never. Matter of fact, this is ironic. The Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA, actually forecasts 20 years in the future, but not anything concerning intelligence. It's they forecast who's going to be the movie capital, who's going to be the music capital. They already predicted that it will be Bollywood in Germany and South Africa. It's just going to happen.
As a leader and advocate, what steps do you believe in, are crucial for addressing systemic racism, and also how do you create a meaningful change?
It's very simple. Ownership. That's the key. Okay. Barbie was directed by a female director. She's the first female director to have $1 billion movie. Now, that's a great thing, but then it's like, really? Like, we should have more female directors. And the answer is, if you have a female owner of the studio or head of the studio, those are the people that greenlight movies. We call them suits. They say the movie can go. Now, you have actors that are capable of doing that, such as De Niro or Denzel Washington. But the best way to fight any ism or to get past any ism is ownership, right? Because you're going to make the movie you want to make, just like the people that run the studios now make the movie that they want to make, right?
Yeah.
So that ends it all. And most of it isn't any sort of conscious bias, right? It's just natural. Only so many movies can be made. And there's only so many dollars to go around for the budget of that movie, especially now that the average movie has went from $50 million, say in the 80s, to now you're talking well over $100 million. And with the special effect movies, again, you're talking $250, $300 million, and some of them it went as high as $500 million. So the key is, if you have people in the position of power to say yes or no, naturally they're going to make the movie they want to make, right? Okay, so it's just like with songs. Prince is going to make songs completely different than Michael Jackson every time, right? Taylor Swift is going to make completely different songs than Beyonce every time, right? They're in complete control of their careers. That's what we need more of, particularly women. That, and you're going to see that's going to be another huge change. That's part of the strike. The other part of the biggest part of the strike is because of the technology, because of the shift to the east of the movie industry. It's residuals. Okay, with AI coming on, they said, well, you're going to have AI actors. That means we don't get residuals. And people need to understand, just like with sports, 85% of people that make it in Hollywood end up bankrupt really quickly. I'm saying no matter how much money they made. Personal cases, Ed McMahon was on the Tonight Show for 30 years. Um, he got evicted from his home, but what saved him was Donald Trump paid off the house for his last years, even though he made $100 million in the business. You look at shows like Happy Days; those people, some of them ended up, living in trailer parks. But you look at Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp was broke. Nicolas Cage, all that money they made, they end up being broke. So that's where residuals come in. Residuals are the payments you get from films and movies you've already shot, right? So every time it's ran, it's like a record getting a royalty. So you get a check for that. The merchandising is sold. You get a check for that, right? So let's say you were in Star Wars. You're going to make more money today than you got paid for Star Wars because of all the different platforms, from YouTube to cable to satellite to streaming, that Star Wars is ran on every day, right? So it's very important what the actors see. What's coming is it's going to be less actors, which most actors don't make $1 million a year. It's not like that. There's very few stars, and you're making $20 million as a base salary plus a percentage. So that also takes away money for those that aren't the major players. So that's what you're really talking about, because there are big sacrifices. You're talking 12, 18-hour days, right? And they have to take the movie. If you're in any way involved in the music industry, you can't say no. That's what this is all about. And the thing is, no one has an answer to it. That's why it ended up being a strike. And when you add the cost of making a movie today. Okay, you got to imagine you're the head of a studio. You have 10 movies in front of you, a potential to be made. Let's say 3 of them are special effects like the Avengers or so. So you're saying, okay, there goes 350, $400 million I have to spend. I have to make back 7 or 800 million just to break even. And I have 3 of those movies. So that's $2 billion right there, right? Then I got regular movies, let's say a Training Day, a comedy, a Ocean's 12 type movie, right? That is less. Let's say the budget for that is 70 million, right? So do I go and make the big movies hoping to get the big cash in, or do I make the smaller movie that needs less money to make a profit? And the answer is they're going for the big movie right now, and they're missing a lot. They're having a lot of misses, and you're beginning to see that with what's happened in the last uh, month with those big, expensive movies. You're talking bringing in $6 million when they were expecting 60 million in a day. I'm saying that was the total gross. There's a movie that was out about a month ago called Big George Foreman. It's about George Foreman, the heavyweight boxer that was beat by Ali in the Thriller in Manila. Well, the boxer in the movie, it's a true story that he fought to regain the championship, is a friend of mine, Michael Moore, right? And it's the same thing in that, because it's all entertainment now. That business, whatever happens in Hollywood, doesn't stay in Hollywood. So all those fights are televised. That's where the money is at, the pay-per-view, the television rights to say NFL football, tennis, that's it. Everything is being affected. And if you look at the salaries that have happened in sports, they've really ballooned. Like when Michael Jordan was playing, the big thing was he signed a 25-year deal for $25 million. That was a big deal, right? Today, you have the top stars in basketball, Stephen Curry, in the center for the world champions Denver Nuggets. They're making almost $60 million a year. That's just basketball salary. It's not counting endorsements. Okay. So you have guys that are signing $500 million contracts to play sports for 7 to 10 years. And you even have, again, going back to Asia, look what just happened with Ronaldo, right? Ronaldo signed the largest contract in the history of sports. Ronaldo is making over $100 million a year. Matter of fact, it's closer to $150 million a year. Yeah, he's making about 130 a year, right? Because and then you have the live golf situation where the Saudis have lived. They essentially took over the PGA. They're not saying that, but that's what happened. They took over the PGA because they have the money, right? If Apple ends up with owning, let's say TMZ, well, we know Apple took over TMZ, right? That's what happened. Apple has all the money, and that's what is happening. You're going to see the NBA. That's going to happen. You're going to see that happen in tennis because that money is so big. Athletes aren't going to turn it down. So imagine the athletes that I mentioned in basketball that are making $50 million a year, and Saudi Arabia comes along and say, well, I'll give you $150 million a year to join our basketball league with China, right? Which I predict is going to happen. Brazil is going to be brought in. Guess what that athlete's going to do? That athlete knows he has a limited amount of time to play. He's going to head right to Saudi Arabia like Ronaldo and take the $150 million over, say, 5 years.
Definitely.
I
Yeah.
mean, each year 150 million. So you're talking almost $750 million.
Yeah. I would
They're going to take the
say
money.
yes to it as well. I mean, if I was
Yeah, of course,
anyone, right?
right.
Okay, so you also run a think tanks. Because based on everything that you said, right, it's fascinating. And it seems like you could really see the future, like where are we going with this, like this industry and what's happening. So how do you predict events and trends?
Well, it comes from experience. I grew up in the cities of Detroit and Toronto. I was a paratrooper in the military. I spent a year in the Desert Wars. I speak German, Arabic, working Zulu, and English, right? So I see everything in a global sense, the big picture. And that's something I've noticed about the East. The East always grand picture. As Arnold Schwarzenegger, Terminator, and the former governor of California says, he says, Americans, particularly American politicians and leaders, never see the grand picture. They will never get the grand picture. And it's just normal in the East. Like most of my friends are from the East. They're from India, Pakistan, uh, China, Australia. They get it, but not here. And right now, it's fatal because the world is moving so fast, but it's moving fast and big, right? Like no other time in history. I compare it to when the Europeans set out and conquered the world between the 15th and 19th centuries. That's what's going on right now. So, how we're able to predict the future is through that experience, real world experience, not reading books, but through also studying under the best in the world, knowing those people in those positions and studying their successes, but it's their failures. You almost learn nothing from success, but you do learn from failures, right? You learn what not to do, and it also hones you on, well, this works for me. And in the entertainment business, that is very important. Understand, you need to go with what works with you. If you look, the biggest actors in Hollywood tend to work with the same director and producer over and over, like Robert De Niro and Martin Scorsese, right? The reason that they do this is it worked, right? They could not like each other. It worked. And when you have success in Hollywood or in sports, you want to go with it because one minor change and it's a disaster. People have done that and they never recovered from it. So I have been able to predict the future, which is going to come out in a big, huge way concerning what's going on with President Trump. I actually predicted in 2016 to a well-known media CEO that Donald Trump's presidency would end in him being impeached and eventually put on trial to be sent to jail. I predicted that in 2016 before he won. I predicted when everyone was laughing at his candidacy, I predicted in July of 2015 he would become president, he'd win. I was right. But there's also been other things, very important, well-known events, right? And where that comes from, I would put it this way again, all that studying, meeting the right people, real world experience, but it's just like acting, right? Because that fascinates me. I could never act, right? Why is Robert De Niro or Meryl Streep or Denzel Washington better than the other people? And my answer to that I get from growing up around professional sports stars. Why was that boxer able to win a championship with less skill than a guy that never did? Right? Why is it that Tom Brady has 7 Super Bowl rings, although he was drafted 199 out of 254 players that year, right? He replaces the number 1 pick in the entire NFL in his second year, right? He's the most successful and best quarterback ever. And what I learned is people don't like saying this. It's 2 things. Part of it is just God given talent, but that won't get you a career in show business or sports. It is, they're more dedicated to their profession. Is those athletes were first ones in the gym, last ones out of the gym. The people that I know that are successful in Hollywood, that's all they did. You hear that cliche, focus, concentration, right? You can't have the distractions. Those people, that's what they did. They ate, slept, and worked show business, right? So they made their own luck and it came out, right? So that's what it boils down to. Some people it's God given talent, but they still have to put in that extra work. For the everyone else, it's putting in that work. You have to outwork. That's what Will Smith says. You can outact me, but you can't outwork me. That you have to be focused. You have to take advantage of every opportunity. Um, and unfortunately, most people don't. I'm saying literally, if let's say Spielberg or Scorsese, right, came to them and said, I want to make a movie but I need you to come with me right now. We're shooting in Australia.
Yeah.
99 people out of 100 would say wait, and automatically they just dismiss you. The only answer is, where do you need me to be? When? My first interview ever was with TMZ, and the producer called me and said the choice is between you and P Diddy. Okay, I'm no one. This is my first interview. I've been in the record business for 2 weeks, right? And I said, well, you want me? They said, why? I said, well, it's a better interview with longer legs. You don't get a lot of play out of this, right? They said, well, when can you come to New York? I said, whenever you want me in New York. They said, the car's on its way. If I'd have hesitated, P. Diddy lives in New York. They flew me from Detroit to New York. So that's what I'm saying. Yes is the answer. If they say, well, do you speak German? Say yes. Even if you don't, go home and learn some German. That's what you can do. Go learn some German. Whatever you need to do, but the answer is always yes. Take whatever break you can get because it'll turn into something bigger, right? Like that person may be the light crew person, ends up being a director, producer, or running a studio. It happens all the time. So vitamin C, vitamin C, vitamin C, contacts, contacts, contacts.
I love that. Yes, say yes. But it's something that I always tell my people as well. Like, say yes first, figure out the how later.
That's right.
Because some people is like, whenever there's an opportunity, they would be thinking about how am I going to do this? How is it going to be? It's about the how, but it's no, no one knows how to do everything, right? We don't know. We don't have all the answers, but you always say yes first. The how will show itself.
No,
right?
you're right. And I'm saying even the professionals, like at this time, his name is Donald Passman. He wrote the Bible of the recording industry.
Okay.
And he helped me out also. At that time, he did the biggest deals in music with Janet Jackson's contract with Virgin Records, right? And Dr. Dre's deal with Interscope, right? And you can go check, it's even in his book, but he told me this. He doesn't even understand, for instance, how publishing rights work. Now, keep in mind, he's the number one attorney, Harvard attorney. He says, but the money ends up where it's supposed to. That's all that counts, right? And that's how you have to look at. You got someone just said they're going to hire you to make a movie. Yes,
Yeah.
right? Because most people don't get that opportunity. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, exactly. Something that I want to ask you about is you also mentioned about we don't learn from success, we learn from failures. So personally, what is your biggest failure and what did you learn from it? So that we can learn from you.
My biggest failure was not marrying three of my ex fiancées. I'm going to say that. I should have been married by now. My biggest failure, and I actually engineered it, I knew I had to because I was head of the time, is as I said, my first interview ever was TMZ, but I've been on E Entertainment. You name the media all over Australia, you name the media outlet in Europe, Canada, America, I've been on it. Okay. I'm not an entertainer, right? So again, I'd only been in the business 2 weeks when this happened, so I purposely slowed things down because I realized at that point that although I was ready to go, my talent wasn't in terms of being professional, instead of in terms of understanding the break, in terms of understanding what comes with that. So I purposely delayed it, right? So that would be my biggest failure. Like, I did it on purpose, but at the same time, um, there were millions of dollars on the table. Now, the good thing is those millions now have become billions because not only the South African movie project, but I also have an app coming out being built in Germany. The Germans refer to the app as the Facebook killer. Actually, now they call it the social media killer. That's another thing. Social media will not exist anymore. And I'm saying in reality, it doesn't now. It's over. Like China doesn't allow Facebook. Countries like Iran don't allow it. But Facebook, in a 6 month span between July and January of last year, July of last year to January of this year, lost 50% of its value. Okay, so it's not coming back. It's over. It always was not the best thing in the world, but it's being replaced by the new media, and that new media again will be based in Germany, China, South Africa, India, and America will constantly see a steady drop because just the competition, right? There's only so many dollars. People
Yeah.
are only going to go see so many movies. So that's the situation um, that people need to understand is that you might have to you will have to give some things up in order to be successful in this business. It has to be your priority, right? Success is a jealous girlfriend. That's the way to look at it. If you cheat on it, you're going to fail. Okay. Just like you're going to lose the girlfriend, you're going to fail. You have to have that as your only priority. And if it's, if it's not for you, it's against you, especially in this business. Yep. So you do need to understand that everything brought your way, and I'm not saying a role or anything, but you're going to have people come to you with offers that will ruin your career, right? You need to understand that. So that's why you want to know exactly what you want to do. You want to read those bios. That's the best. It's real world. It's the next best thing to talking to that person. I was fortunate to be able to talk to those people, right? And
Yeah.
you hear the same common thing over and over. 99 times did not get what I wanted. The one time I did, that's all I needed. Look at show business as like the lottery. You only need to be right once. You
Yeah.
get in one movie, one TV show, you're good. But I would say the thing that people need to understand is understand the new media is very, very different. Like the old media, which would be like CNN, Fox, gone. uh, Facebook gone. That's why Elon Musk changed Twitter. He knew Twitter, it never was going to come back. Twitter wasn't that successful monetarily from the beginning. People need to understand that. Okay. So now it's going to be replaced in the way the smartphone replaced the cell phone, right? Nobody wants a BlackBerry today. That used to be the most popular phone when President Obama was sworn in. And the big thing was he wanted to keep his BlackBerry, and the Secret Service said, yeah, we can't secure it, but they found a way to do it. You don't hear BlackBerry anymore. It's gone, right? That's just the way it is. And that's what you're going to see happen with the media because once people see the better, they're going to go for it. That's just natural. You don't have to tell people to drive a car rather than ride a horse, right? They go for the car automatically. And final point on that, the thing to remember, what I say is always think long term. It's a long life, right? Most people today are going to live in their 80s, 90s. That's just the way it is, right? Show business is like that. Look at the reboot of the Star Wars movies, right? After 50 years, they're able to come back and make even more money, the actors are, right? So the thing to remember with that is it's like the smartphone. Did you know there's nothing in the smartphone that's new? The iPhone, there's nothing in it that's new. Actually, the touch screen was invented in 1965. Yeah, yeah. Steve Cook talks about it. There's actually he has a 1 hour TV. He says nothing in the iPhone is new. We took it from old technology. We just put it all in one place. Look at the iPhone as your career, right? So the basics are out there. They're the same as they were in 1920, 1950, 1980, right? The difference, the only thing is you personally. So you have to understand the big picture, what you need to do individually, day to day basis to move yourself forward. That will make you successful. No one can stop you from being successful. I need to say that because there's so many platforms today. It's completely up to you, but you do need to make the right steps.
Wow. I love everything you said. It's so motivational in a sense. And how would you define success?
I would say that success, if you're talking on the acting or on the show business level, success is those people that said you wouldn't make it have to watch you on TV and in the theaters when you have made it, right? That's the measure of success. When people recognize you at the mall walking down the street, when you are able to go and Google yourself and come up with projects, right? It's simple measures, right? You need to do everything and be in the same places in the same media as Taylor Swift to Sharon Stone, right? To Johnny Depp. That's your goal. Is like whatever they're doing is working. I want to be where they're at. So that's how I measure success. Is one, did it work, right? But if I'm in the same media like TMZ or in Australia with uh, uh, Channel 9 Australia. If you're like that, then you've made it. If you have people calling you, you've made it. But the number one thing to show that you've made it, you're too busy. There's not enough hours in the week. There's
Just
168 hours in the week. And when you make it, you will find out you're pretty much up for 150 of those 168 weeks.
just like
Because yep,
right.
when you're hot, you're hot. You have to understand that and you have to take advantage of it. That's it. Yeah, you take there's been uh real world cases where people were at the top, took 6 months off, they got replaced. Someone else came along, the business changed real quickly, right? That's the thing you want to always be. It's like ballet. When that ballet dancer is in the air doing a pirouette, they're always already thinking about the next move when they hit the ground. I'm gonna hit the ground, what's my next move while they're in the air? That's the key. That is the key. When you get that break, think I'm gonna make this break bigger, right? I'm gonna go to the next step. So again, anybody can make it, but you do need to understand show business is very different. It's not like a 9 to 5, which is based on chronos. Show
Mm,
business is based on kairos. Chronos is time, 9 to 5, 9, 10, 11, 12 at 5, I get off.
yeah.
Kairos is timing. I'm in the right place at the right time with the right talent, right? And as again, Will Smith said, I'm always prepared to be on. If you came to me right now and said you needed me to act this part, I've already ran through as many acting jobs as I can. I can pull that up. And that's me. That's been my break. Is that the media has covered me a lot because the editors and producers actually do all the work. The reporters don't. Okay. They say, you sent us all the information we would have had to research, right?
Yeah.
So when they contact me on a particular subject, I already have that ready. The only thing I have to do is put in their email address, and it's like, there goes his bio, there goes what he's done, this is who he knows, these are the contact numbers, right? Their job is easier. Are they going to go for me where they don't have to devote hours and days, or are they going to go for the person that have to devote hours and days? No, they're going to go with me.
Yes. Beautiful. This has been such a mind-blowing and thought-provoking conversation. I'm personally learning so much from you, to be honest. And yeah, I know you're a busy man, and thank you so much. It's super late for you. So thank you so much for being here with us and sharing so generously with our listeners about your experience, your background, your insights. Wow. And so we're going to end with our final 5 rapid-fire questions. These are the 5 questions that I ask all my guests at the end of the show. And every question has to be answered in 1 word or 1 sentence maximum.
Got it.
The first question is, what is one thing you wish you knew earlier?
That you nice guys finish last.
Love that. Yeah, I love that saying. Second question, if you could live your life all over again, what would you do differently?
I've never dated an American before, but once I would have married that American.
Okay. The next question is, if you had 5 minutes and the whole world was listening to you, what would you say?
I would say stay positive. Everything's good. It's just a matter of you having the right information.
I love that. Okay. The next question is, what is something you're trying to learn or curious about right now?
It is definitely tech. because it's evolving so fast and you have to keep up. That is the thing that most occupies my time, because we're on the verge of a tech jump that's going to be beyond huge. And if you haven't kept up with it, you're in trouble.
Yes, with AI and everything. Yeah. The last question is, what brings you the greatest joy?
Without a doubt, is seeing someone else become successful. That's number one for me. Someone that I knew, that I may have helped, which has happened many a time, becoming successful, living their dreams. You know what I mean? They didn't quit. They didn't give up. The day you quit, the next day you would have made it. Remember that more than anything.
Wow, I love that. Yes, because most of the time, yeah, when I think about my own like journey, because I'm an entrepreneur, like the moment I want to quit, like I just feel like giving up. It's the moment I get the next, like get the next client, or someone just call me, like got this opportunity. Like you wouldn't believe it, right? So yeah, that's
No,
so totally.
no, you're right. That's how it is. If you got to understand, everyone that made it is going through what you made through. Again, that's why it's so important to read those bios. You can find them on IMBD or Wikipedia. Read both, but don't quit. That's that. No one in Hollywood ever failed. It's just some people quit too early.
Yes. Wow. Yeah. Thank you so much for saying that. Now, do you want people to connect with you? Like, where can people find you if they want to learn more about you, or if they want to interview you? Do you want people to find you? Are you on social media?
Yeah, I'm rarely on social media, but which they can find me, I'm all over the web. Probably my Facebook, because I have an unusual name. I'm the only person with that name. My
Okay.
last name is not very common. So Jerome Almon, you can find me. I'm all over publicly. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter. We all do have to maintain a presence on that. I want to make that crystal clear. Okay, reality is you do need to maintain some sort of presence on social media because it exists. Always remember that, right? Final quote from it's a multi-billionaire, wrote a nice book, Swim with the Sharks. As he said, do business with your heart, and the only thing you'll end up with is heart disease. That's why you won't have money. That's why our career. That's why professionalism is so stressed in the entertainment business. It has to be there, right? Because you have this giant project with all these moving parts, with all these people. We need you to be professional. If you do that, you're good. 90%, once you get your foot in the door, matter of fact, 99% is you just showing up on time.
Yes. Yeah.
They're going to go with the person they know is going to show up every time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so important. Right. Thank you so much. Right, guys. I hope you love and enjoy this episode. This conversation, like I do. Please reach out to Jerome on Facebook and thank him for coming today and sharing with you so generously. Remember to follow him, support him in any way you could. You will find all the resources in the show note below. I will try to put all the links that he has, his social media on, in the show note below. So make sure you go and check it out and follow him and support him. And if you're not following me, follow me on Instagram. And if you're listening, let us know. Take a screenshot of this and tag me and tag Jerome. And we would love to hear from you. Like, what do you think about this episode? Do you have any questions? We would love to get back to you as well, connect with you. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss another juicy episode coming every Wednesday with me and my awesome guests. And I will always leave you the same way as I leave you with every other episode. Show up. The world needs you and you need you. Thanks for listening, and I wish you all a joyful and amazing day ahead. Thank you again for tuning to Find Joy with Joanne podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, you can help support this podcast in one of three ways. 1. Take a screenshot of this episode and share it on your IG story and tag me at findjoywithjoanne_podcast so I can repost and connect with you. 2. Share this podcast with a friend or a family member. And 3, leave a positive review on Apple Podcasts so we can continue to grow and reach more listeners worldwide. Make sure you also subscribe so you don't miss out on any episode coming Wednesday. Thanks for being here, and I will see you soon in the next episode.